All right, boys. So let's talk a little bit more defense. And the popular topic these days seems to be all regarding this engage blitz. And I don't know who found this, to be honest. Don't really know what would even make somebody want to run this, like, or in terms of like labbing this. Like, I feel like this is 100% like an accidental find. But with that being said, it works. So let's kind of talk about it, right? So everybody by now, I'm sure, knows the 4-3 even 6-1, where you just flip the play, shift your crash your defensive line to the left, take a user. You basically are engaging with the offensive center, and then you're hoping that that defensive tackle loops around. That is what started this engage meta, I would say. The fact that you can, engage with the O line and then either stick switch or just drop back into coverage and, guard whatever you want. So, like, that's the OG version of this. Now, a lot of people have switched over to running the dime 1-4, and they're running this version of it here to where they're blitzing both their linebackers. They're going to stand, basically take one of the linebackers, stand in front of the guard, basically just engage with him, boom, peel back into coverage. And it's the same type of concept, right? The thing that makes this one good is you can zone out the other end too. So, like, you can make this a 3-man blitz and shade down and stick switch all around. And, generally you just get really good, block sheds and everything when it comes to this style of a defense. Now, there's different ways to go about attacking this for sure. So I don't want to sit here and make it seem like this is the, end all be all for defense. But it's really good. People are running this and they're having a lot of success with it. I think you see it in most, competitive games at this point, right? And the reason for that is not only does it come in on regular passing plays, right? They send 5 out, but this particular one works against play action as well. So if somebody runs a play action play, sends 5 out, assuming you go ahead and actually get the right engage, boom, you see you engage, you still drop back. Like, that linebacker still shoots through the gap. And that's what I think a lot of people love about this defense, is the fact that it does counter play action, which is the main counter to loop blitzes in general. So overall, it's really good. Like, I can't say anything really negative about it outside of the fact that it does require you to, take your user out of commission initially. But with that being said, it, like, you still have the ability to stick switch to any player you want, right? So, like, when you're doing this, the whole idea behind it is, I actually just messed the blitz up, but the whole idea behind it is to switch stick onto one of your other zones. So boom, you engage, you would stick switch on to the outside guy, take away the corner. You would switch stick to the flat and take away, whatever quick pass they're trying to hit you with, right? So you can do that. You can go ahead, do something that looks like this, where you've got a hook out there and try to switch stick onto that player. So boom, just take away whatever you want. And overall, it's a frustrating defense, just because mainly the stick switch is what really gets people. That's the way I look at it, honestly. But so that's super meta, right? And like I said, a lot of people are just doing that to cover 4 drop. I think the way that I would use this is twofold. I think I would use a lot more man coverage here. So, like, I would run the 2-man under flipped. And the reason you would want to run this flipped is, so, like, you would go ahead and do this same thing right here, right? You still got to blitz that linebacker, but then you would just man up your user on the running back, right? And now here you would engage and then, switch stick onto one of the safeties. Or if the running back's blocking, right, then you just go play whatever you want. But that way you can still get that, looping pressure, so to speak. It's not really a loop. It's more of a straight shot down into the B gap. And you get a lot of people that like I said, you get a lot of people that just simply struggle against this. So something that's super easy to do, boom. I mean, look at that type of pressure right there. Right? That's crazy. Now, obviously, it's not going to happen like that every single rip, but you generally will get a combination of this guy coming free, and then overall just good sheds by these other players, right? You see, boom. The fact that we got the D tackle to come in free is 100% a practice mode thing. But yeah, it's like that's the way that it works, right? I like the 2-man under version of this more than the cover 4, but I'm also a man coverage player in terms of how I prefer to actually play the game. Now, I will say this, and this is going to be my preferred way of running kind of like this same concept, but also putting in off meta twist to it, right? So out of 1-4, you have the crossfire plays, which, everybody loves these crossfire plays. They're really good. They loop in through the B gaps. They're generally harder to pick up than your old like cover 6 Willie at $1, a 3-2 that was super effective, right? Now, what I like about this is you can create a loop by yourself out of the play cover 4 drop and some of the other plays as well, and we'll get into it. But basically the way that this will work, right? So this is my preferred setup to this. You want to shift your linebackers to the left, blitz your linebackers, and then from there, you want to go ahead, take this linebacker right here, and you want to engage with the guard, right? So this is going to be very similar to what that concept was in terms of getting that guy shooting through the B gap. But here they're going to shoot through from just a different angle, right? So boom, you would engage, drop back, and this is what's going to happen more times than not, where you will get the edge heat that comes in free. So like this player right here will come in free. And then you also get this linebacker shooting through the B gap that comes in free, right? So you can see we're sending 4 people with the engage and we're getting 2 people in. Now, the other thing to note with this, right? So we go ahead, do the same concept. You can drop out that defensive end on the right, and it's not going to affect this at all. Let's see, and just basically, as long as you engage just for that split second, you're going to be able to get that pressure. So right there, you see we're getting 2 people in free with only sending 3 people, right? Because we're taking our user, we're engaging, then we're popping back into coverage. And then here, you have so many people into zones that not only can you stick switch to, it's just going to be harder to beat. It's hard to beat some of these, max zone coverage style defenses, especially when you're getting this style of pressure in free. Now, the thing to note, this player on the end needs to have 90 acceleration or higher. Obviously, the better acceleration that he has, the higher the acceleration, the better. But the threshold is 90. He has to have 90 acceleration. Otherwise, he will not come in free. In terms of mugging the gap, the smaller the player, the better. In terms of engaging with the offensive line, the bigger the player you have, they tend to start sliding over, and like the game's programmed really goofy in terms of how the AI will just kind of overreact and over credit certain players in the A gaps, which is what gets a lot of the edge heat in free in its own right. But the smaller players, generally the better when it comes to this concept. Besides that, obviously it's just speed. You want speed everywhere. So yeah, once again, like this is cover 4 drop. Super quick, easy little setup. Like I said, you're just shifting, you're blitzing your linebackers, you're making whatever adjustments you want in the coverage, and then you're just engaging with this player, right? So here's the play art, looks like this, right? Now, once again, if they were to go ahead and block a running back, you'll see, boom, it doesn't matter. Running back doesn't pick up the edge heat. Even if he does pick up the edge heat, he's got the looper coming in free behind him. Now, the main difference between this one and the meta one that I broke down is play action, right? So I talked about how the play action doesn't pick up the meta one. You'll see it will pick up this one, right? So here we go. Once again, dropping this player back into coverage. We try to run this same blitz setup. Boom. See how it gets picked up? That is pretty much what you're dealing with, right? So you can mix it up to the point where, you know, if you wanted to, run the normal setup against play action, and basically use this one to force them into those play action calls, that's what I'd recommend. Um, but they definitely both have a purpose. Now, once again, I like this one better. I like dropping my defensive lineman into zones. I like having, the ability to get looping pressure as well as edge heat. I just feel like, that is generally harder to pick up because a blocked running back simply won't pick it up consistently. And then also, let me audible over to bunch tight end here. You'll notice like a block tight end, something that people love to do. Right? So people love blocking tight ends against these style of blitzes. You can see a block tight end doesn't work either. Now, there are different tips and tricks in terms of how to pick up these style of engaged blitzes. Like I said, I'm not really going to dive into all of that, but overall, this is a really good blitz because it combines the edge heat concept that makes defenses like 3-4 odd and double A gap so good, and then it also gives you the ability to run this setup. You're in the same formation as the meta crossfire. You can basically pick and choose whatever coverage shell you want. I mean, you've got a cover 4 drop. You can run any of the Tampa 2s. You can run pretty much anything. There's cover 6 in here. You got 2 man under. You got all these edge blitzes like Mike SS1 dog. You have double safety go if you wanted to come out in that. So like you have everything that you could possibly need all in one formation. And yeah, it's really, really, really good. The weakness to this is obviously going to be run defense, but the way that the run game is in this year's game, like you don't have to overreact to the run by any means to stop it more times than not. So hopefully you guys enjoy this content.